Thank you all. As she said, my name is Saundra Anderson, and I'm an intern here at Cornerstone Christian Fellowship. And every time I get up here, I wonder if it's going to be my last time because they asked me to be my authentic self, and I don't know how far that can go. Because I'm going to be honest, when Pastor Tracy asked me to take this text, I was like, what's the text? Because she liked to give me the hard stuff, and I'm like, so I saw it and glanced over it, and I was like, all right, I can do it for you. And then I got home, and I started scratching my head, and I was like, she gonna have to get somebody else to do this. And then I came to church last week, and Matt got up here, and he said the same thing that I was feeling. Like, what do you do with texts like this? And I said, Matt may be on to something. Like, we gonna kaleidoscope this one on out, like community inspired. But unfortunately, Pastor T wouldn't let me follow into Matt's footsteps. So here I am. Pray for me. Pray for me. But I want you to think back to a time where you've gotten some sad news that maybe a loved one has passed. And you are processing this moment, and you are thinking about what the future looks like without that person. And as you're processing, that one person comes up to you and says, stop crying. It's going to be okay. Or you get the rejoice, for they're in a better place. And my favorite, I know you needed them, but God needed them more. And I'm like, what? Like, where did we ever get this information from? Like, whoever told us that that was good advice? Like, especially that last one of like, God needed them more. Like, I don't know, maybe an angel got sick and they're like, yeah, like Saundra's grandma is a good singer. Like, I'm gonna just call her up. Like, what exactly do he need your loved one more to do? So I don't know. Or maybe, like you parents, when you're in trouble and discipline time and they say, I'm doing this because I love you. Or this is gonna hurt me more than it's hurt you. And you're like, how is that possible? It just don't make sense why you in that moment and thinking about what's to come, and they're like, it's gonna hurt you and I love you, and you like, I don't think you do. Or, you ever been in a breakup and that person says, it's not you, it's me. Like, yeah, we know it's you, but how is you telling me that I just supposed to be like, oh, thank goodness, it's you. Like, forget the heartbreak that I'm going through, forget you crushing my soul, but because it's you, I feel so much better. Like, we say some weird stuff. Like, we got to stop. Like, task number one is stop that. It's weird. And honestly, for me, like, if I'm upset, like, I don't want to hear nobody saying calm down. When I'm sad, I don't want nobody trying to rush me out of being sad. Like, God says there are seasons, and seasons aren't a day. Like, sometimes I want to be in that moment. Like, give me 5 minutes at least. Like, don't be like, calm down, Saundra. Like, when I get upset, like, I get upset. And they be like, calm down, girl. And I be like, give me a minute to be, like, I want to feel every emotion that God has given to me. Yeah. Like, sorry for the positive people. Like, I want to feel it. And then I'll be positive later. But in that moment, I want to feel it. So this morning, I want you to journey with me through a conversation between Jesus and his disciples. And The disciples are in a moment where they too struggle with being caught up in grief that positivity is just not something that they can focus on in that moment. So our text today is John chapter 16, verses 5 through 11. And I'm reading for the NIV. But now I'm going to him who sent me, and none of you ask me, where are you going? Rather, you are filled with grief because I have said these things. But very truly I tell you, it is for your good that I am going away. Unless I go away, the advocate would not come to you. But if I go, I will send him to you. When he comes, he will prove the world to be wrong about sin and righteousness and judgment. About sin, because people do not believe in me. About righteousness, because I am going to the Father where you can see me no longer. And about judgment, because the prince of this world now stands condemned. So today I want to focus on two things that stood out to me. I kind of stole it from Matt, with the kaleidoscope. What stands out to you? And my first one is when you are going through difficult times, where is your focus? So Jesus had been talking for a while, and he's giving these motivational speeches, and it's like he just stops and he's like, why is no one asking me where I'm going? And instead you're like stuck in your grief. Like, you ever been talking to somebody and you know that they ain't listening to you? Like, they just got like this gaze over, like, and you like, I am talking some good stuff. Like, what are you thinking about? Or like you in a conversation and you just talking and like they not giving you no response. You like talking to yourself. Like, this is how I feel like this moment is going. And he's like, let me stop all this good stuff that I'm telling you and like pay attention, like focus on me. So Jesus is giving his last will and testament, and he's trying to ensure that they are prepared for what's to come. And this is like one of their last chance to ask all the questions that they can ask him. And instead, they are like stuck in la la land, stuck in their grief. Like, can you imagine if God was like, I'm going to give you one day to just ask me all the questions that you... Like, we would probably talk his ear off. Like, we wouldn't be... He would probably be like, calm down. Like, I don't have time to answer all the questions, but they have this opportunity that we don't have. And instead of asking all the questions to get all the answers to what they want to know, they are just so focused on grief that they are missing this whole opportunity. As most of you know, I'm in the Army, and I have deployed 5 times overseas to a war zone. So every time I get this news, I have to sit my family down and be like, yeah, it's here. I'm about to go. No, you can't come. No, you can't stop this. So I'm pouring out all my last will and testaments. This is what you need to do with this. This is who you can contact if you need that. And I'm giving all this wisdom and all this good information. And the only thing that they have heard is, you're going to die. Like, they have not heard anything that I've said. And every time I left, it's when I'm gone, they're like, well, who did you say we could contact? Because they were not focused on me setting them up for what's to come. They were only focused on, oh my God, she's going to die. And there's nothing we can do about it. Caught up in your circumstance. See, when we read the Bible, we have the privilege of knowing how the story ends. We can just go through the Bible. The disciples in this moment, they don't have this. So they are just trusting in what Jesus is saying, and it's a lot to take in. And I don't know about you, but have you ever been in a class where the teacher is just talking and like some of the stuff is going over your head? Or maybe you're like stuck in that gauge. You're thinking about dinner, you're thinking about bills, you're thinking about everything. And then at the end, they're like, hey, anybody got any questions? And you don't ask a question because you don't know if they already told it and you just weren't paying attention. So you don't want them to know you weren't paying attention, or you just don't want them to know that you just don't know. So what we do, we probably find the smartest kid at the end and be like, hey, did you listen and understand? Because I kind of get... So I feel like the disciples, if I was a disciple, I would be like, It's okay, I'm gonna just ask John because that's what we're reading today. Like, John was paying attention. While everybody else is like John is like, this is what's happening. Like, he's that one studious person that when you're not paying attention, go back and find John because he was listening. But that's what we do. Like, we just gaze over and then we're like, yeah, we'll ask them later. And he's like, you may not have later. Like, ask the questions now. Don't feel like you're dumb for asking the questions. Ask the questions now while you got me. So if I was a disciple in the moment, this is probably what I would be thinking. This is me, You got your own interpretation, so don't take nothing that I say from here on. This is what I would be thinking if I was a disciple. The good thing about Center Set, I can think in the moment. This is my thoughts. You don't have to hone it in. You don't have to, it ain't got to be your truth. This is me. I would be thinking, one, we are grieving and we're trying to wrap our minds around him saying he's going to die. Imagine a person close to you just keep talking about, like he predicting his death. Like, you like, that's weird. Or like, snap out of that. Like, dude, why you keep talking about death? Like, one is weird, and two, you're just like, you don't want to hear your loved one like planning their death. Like, telling you, hey, when I'm dead, like, do this. Like, it's just a weird vibe, and you don't want that from somebody that you love. Then on top of that, our boy Judas, he had already told us Judas is going to betray him. Peter is going to deny him. So, like, what does that leave our crew? Like, we've been tight for, like, years, and now you telling me you leaving, and then we got two traitors, like, and I don't even know if I'm going to be a traitor because I didn't expect this from them. So it's like, what's going to happen to our crew after this? And you about to leave. That's a lot. Like, how am I even supposed to trust these people with everything around us, like, falling down? Like, everybody is like, geez, you gonna turn on us too? Then he tells us that the world is gonna hate us. And i.e., the world he's talking about right here ain't like the world like we like to say, oh, the world, these sinners out there. Like, no, he's talking about the church folks. Like, you like the world that we supposed to be like fighting together with, crusading with, they gonna hate us. And even to the point they gonna probably want to kill us in your name. Like, that's a lot to process. Like, do I even want to do this? Because now you said they gonna, it just don't sound like good news to me. Then he starts talking about a spirit is gonna come down and start speaking truth. Now, we see this differently because we've been here and we got to read, but put yourself back to them hearing this for the first time. And Jesus is like, yeah, I'm about to, like, Pastor Tracy's like, I'm about to die and then I'm going to leave my spirit with you. Like, no, like, I'm cool with you walking alongside me, but don't leave your spirit to live in me. Like, we cool. I loved mentorship, but, like, walk on side. But in me, I and you, I don't think I'm ready for that. Like, and the truth gonna be talking? Like, ain't nobody even heard of that. So this is stuff they have never heard of. And he's saying this is what's gonna happen. So we already had to try to understand how we supposed to eat his flesh and drink his blood. Now he's talking like a spirit gonna live inside of us. Like, it's a lot to process. So I see why they in a daze. Like, I'm processing a lot, so I really ain't hearing nothing he's saying right now. Then he keeps talking these motivational speeches and riddles about branches and vines and washing feet and servants and masters. And he's talking all this, like, some of us were fishermen. And this dude is talking like smart people stuff. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, yeah, so I'm confused and I'm grieving right now. And then this dude say, like, he upset because he like, y'all ain't even asking where I'm going. And two of us already did. So I'm like, I really don't understand what's wrong with this dude. And it is really a lot to process. Because Jesus had been laying on a lot of tragedy and predictions, and he's trying to glaze it over with, but it's going to be okay. And this is for your own good. Like, you done told us a lot of bad stuff, and you like, it's for, that's that mama baby. Like, we really do love you. It is going to hurt me more than, you like, what? It's for my good. Like, they going to kill me and your name and it's for my good? Like, I don't know. Like, that's, yeah, you got to ask mama baby about that one. And then while this stuff is happening, I ain't going to be here. Like, once you telling us all this gonna happen, and then, oh, by the way, you about to leave, and no, we can't come. Like, we can't escape this, but you can? I don't know. So bad news after bad news, and really, what would you be focusing on? Would you be thinking about anything besides how this is gonna affect your life? And this is bad, real bad. It's kind of hard to say that without saying Michael Jackson. I told you, I don't know how many times they're going to invite me up here. Now, in their defense to the whole, I told you, like 2 people that already told him, like, ask this question. So Peter did ask Jesus, like back in chapter 13, he was like, Jesus, where you going? And he said, you can't come. Then he mentioned, like, I'm going to prepare a place for you, and in my Father's house, there's many rooms, and if it wasn't true, I would have told you. I would have been like, now he didn't say it like that. Now, that's my own spin, but it's like he keep talking to them like they believe he's lying. And I think it's because some of this stuff really sounds unrealistic. Like, to me, this is me, because I'm a little sarcastic. I would have been like, when he's like, yeah, my Father's house has many, I would have been like, we talking about Joseph? Because I know he a carpenter, but when I walked past his house, he ain't have a lot of room. So your father's house got many rooms. I think that's why he was like, if it wasn't true, I would have told you so. Like, because they know Joseph's house ain't got a bunch of rooms. But that's just me. You ain't got to believe that part, but as me, I would have been thinking about his earthly father and got a bunch of rooms. So yeah, it's hard for me to believe. Thomas even asked him where he was going, and he told Thomas, you know the way? I love Thomas because he was like, no, I don't know the way. Like, what are you talking about? I already told you that we don't understand what you be talking about. And he's like, Thomas, you know the way? These disciples was real. They like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And Jesus just keep telling them like more riddles. And they like, we not getting it, bro. Like, stop. So I really don't have the answer to why Jesus would still be asking, why don't you ask, like, why is nobody asking where I'm going? When indeed 2 people already have. But what I can say is, God is not going to stop because of our sorrow. He's not going to stop because of our pain. He's just going to stay there in our presence, and he's going to keep speaking truth. And maybe sometimes if we feel we're not asking the right stuff, why don't we just say, God, where are you? You know the song, it's like, my heart is an open space, and it says, like, where are you going? What are you saying? Like, maybe it should be like that invitation. Since I ain't asking the right questions, like, you tell me where you're going. Tell me what are you saying in this moment. Yeah. But it's about you refocusing on him to say, hey, what does this moment mean? Because it's bad for me. So you tell me what is happening in this bad moment that I'm experiencing. Jesus says, I'm not lying to you. Me leaving is going to be the best thing for you. Okay. Jesus says, when I leave, I can send the advocate, but I have to leave in order to do it. And the word advocate in this text means parakletos in Greek, which means redefining our original being to the closest possible association of kindred companionship, closer than your breath. Jesus is saying here, I'm leaving, but I'm about to be closer than you ever thought. I'm about to be clingy. If you missed that when you go back and find my last sermon on how clingy Jesus want to be. We get so caught up in the small picture that we can't see the bigger picture. Hebrews 12:2 says, "Fix your eyes on Jesus, who is the author and the perfecter of our faith. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross." So if Jesus can endure the cross with the joy set before him, what more can we endure with that same joy that he set before us? Everything that happens in life that is bad isn't purposely to hurt you. It's not purposely to shut you down or take you off course. And it ain't God trying to test you to see just how strong you are. Does it mean that you can't be sad? Nope. Does it mean that you can't grieve or be angry when things don't go as planned? No. You are entitled to your feelings, just like there's a season for everything under the sun. The problem is when you become so consumed in the circumstance that you can't focus on God. Jesus wants us to know that difficult times should be of no surprise. Like, we've caught into this whole American dream of like everything's supposed to be happy, 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 when he's already predicted to us that hardships is just a part of life. Like, we keep lying to ourselves saying like, no, like I'm just supposed to be happy, happy, happy. And he's like, no, I already told you it's going to be hard. Like, we don't prepare ourselves for the hard times. If you know that hardships is expected and you plan for it, it greatly lessens the fear when the moment arrives. If I put up an emergency fund and just start saving when my tire go on the flat or I lose my job, it ain't as bad because I'm like, I already got enough money saved up for this because I planned for it. The same way in life. Sometimes, sadly enough, when somebody dies, we act as if, it's a part of life. But because we choose to not want to wrap our minds around it's going to happen, when it happens, it knocks us off our feet when he has already told us it's appointed for every man to die. But we keep lying to ourselves like it's not going to happen or it's supposed to happen to everybody else but me. We got to stop lying to ourselves and face the fact that hardships is going to happen. We prepare for it. And Jesus said that everything that we need for life and godliness has already been deposited in us. He has already given us everything that we need in order to make it in life. Hardships is just a part of life. It's not designed to be your life. Now, my second and final thought that stood out to me is verse 8 and 9, and it says, when he comes, he will prove the world to be wrong about sin and righteousness and judgment. About sin because people do not believe. What is sin? What is he talking about here? First, we like to put sin in a box. We like to say everything that's bad, sin, and everything that's good is righteousness. Webster says that sin is an offense against religious or moral law, doing what is wrong and not doing what is right. But is right and wrong and good and bad really as straightforward as we think? Like, people can make a census and write a book and say, hey, this is the steps to a successful marriage, or this is what it's like to raise a successful kid. But it's not. Like, who bought into this? Like, it's like somebody had a census and was like, hey, kicking your mom is bad. Like, but to who? Did everybody agree on this, or did we just adopt that, hey, doing that was bad? We take, and that's if you want more lessons like that, go to James on Foundations 1 and 2. He gets into stuff like that. It's like, have we really adopted and bought into this stuff? Or is it really just as black and white as we think? Anytime that sin was mentioned in the Old Testament, the Greek word is called shata, which means offense. Very much how Webster defines it, which means that Webster is still defining based on the Old Testament. It's only written that way in the Old Testament. Now think about this. Wouldn't it have been easier for Jesus to pick like 12 Pharisees? If they had it right, and they were right about, righteousness and sin and their laws and stuff, It would have just been easier to pick 12 of them and say, hey, you already on your way. But no, he goes and finds 12 everyday life living people. If they were so right, they wouldn't have been confrontational with him, and the truth is right in front of their face. And just like Matt said last week, they would do it in the name of the Lord. They killed Jesus because the truth was right in their face, but because we know law, we know religion, we know what God wants, that they don't even know who he is standing right in his face. And sadly, when they say history repeats itself, that's the same thing we do now. The Holy Spirit is speaking truth, and instead of accepting the truth, we say, no, we got to figure it out. We know the Bible. This is law, and anything you say against it is not of God. And God is speaking still truth, and we say, we don't want to hear it. We know religion. We know God. Do you just know religion, or do you really know God as he's speaking truth? Our arrogance as humans and our audacity to think that we can comprehend all that God is and put him in a box and say, here, this is black and white. We missed the mark. We sin because we don't believe in God, we believe in religion. Here in John 16, the word sin doesn't mean shata'ah that was in the Old Testament. It means hamartia, and it's only defined as sin in this definition in the New Testament. Part of the new covenant. That old stuff that they were talking about, that definition of sin does not even equate to the same thing that's in the New Testament. That means all that offense stuff has gone away with. What it means now in the New Testament is missing the mark, the error, failure, or mistakes. It means to be without your allotted portion or without form, pointing to a disoriented, distorted, or bankrupt identity. It means to live out of context with the blueprint of one's design, to behave out of tune with God's original harmony. The world's unbelief and indifference to Jesus is the very cause of their bankruptcy. So what does it mean? What is sin really, if it's not good and bad, right and wrong? The best way I can describe it is this. I got an Apple Watch. And for like 3 months, I stopped using it. So eventually it died and it stopped being connected to my phone. So the moment I said, hey, you know what, I want to start tracking my, fitness and stuff, I tried to link it back, but it wasn't receiving text message. It wasn't doing everything that it's supposed to do. It wasn't living in the context of the blueprint of its design. So I disconnected it, unpaired it, and I said, well, I'm going to restart this process to get it connected back to the source. And it wouldn't connect. It just kept spinning and spinning, and I got upset. So after like the third day, I was like, I bought this watch. I sacrificed for this watch, and it is not living in the content of the blueprint of its design. It's not doing what it's designed to do, but I bought it. Jesus has bought us. He is sacrificed, not just money that I sacrifice for this. He has paid the ultimate sacrifice to buy each and every last one of us. So when we don't live to the blueprint of our design, we like a dead watch that's spinning in circles that cannot do what I purpose for you and designed for you to do. That's sin, living out of the blueprint of which I designed you to do. Then I said, you know what? Brittany has a watch. And I remembered that when she updated her phone, she never connected the watch to the new phone. So you know what her watch does? It just tells time. So I said, you know what? It doesn't change the value of the watch, but all it does is tell time. Some of us are just buying time. You're doing stuff, And if you do believe in that whole box mentality of right and wrong, yeah, you can be right. You're telling time. I'm doing something good. I ain't being bad. I'm doing good. I'm giving you time. But it's so much more that you can be connected to. If only you get this watch and reprogram it to the source, then I can, when this phone calls, my watch calls. When this phone texts, my watch texts. I and you and me, we are one, we are synced. We are locked in, but you choose not to be. You okay with just telling time. We are designed, and the other interesting thing about Apple Watches is for you to get the download, you got to be at least 50% charged or own the charger. You got to be connected to the source to get the downloads. And some of us are saying, I already got everything that I need to know. I don't need to know no more downloads. That's when we get so stuck into the Bible that we are operating at everything that we need to know, and we don't need no more downloads. But what this watch used to do last year with these new downloads, now it can do so much more. But if it's stuck to, no, I got enough, I give you texts, I give you calls, like that's enough. Now it can track my heart rate, it can call the police if I fall out. It can do more exceedingly abundantly above all that I thought it could do. But some of us so stuck in it's good enough that we don't even want the downloads to say, I got something more for you. If only you connect to the source.
Thanks for stepping on my toes.
Step all over them toes. You can follow all the rules you want in society and religion. If you want to stay in that box of right and wrong, you could do everything right and still miss the mark because you are not living in context with the blueprint of your design, and you are out of tune with the original harmony in which God has bought you for. It's nothing like buying something, sacrificing. Say, especially as a mother, when you sacrifice and you birth these kids into the world, there's nothing more sad and disappointing when they go out and be something that you didn't think that you designed them to be. Yeah. And that's how God sees us. It's like, I got so much more for you. And I sacrifice so much for you to just be living life. So do we really believe in God? Are you connected to the source? Or are you just a spinning watch? Or watch just telling time, buying time? Get connected to the source so you can be I and you and him paired. Amen.